now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for September 7th. Well, here we are with another active day in the tropics. Of course, it is to be expected now that it is September. And we have 3 systems active: Larry, which remains a Category 3 in the Atlantic, as well as Conson and 19W in the Western Pacific, both posing major threats to land in the coming days. Switching it over to the Atlantic, it's day 99 of Atlantic hurricane season. Larry remaining a strong Category 3 as verified by Recon, and Invest 91L, which still has a 20% chance of development in the northeastern Gulf / the western Atlantic, as it either hits Florida and continues to hit parallel the Carolinas, of course. It's day 115 of the Eastern Pacific hurricane season. 96E looks likely to form and become the next storm in the Pacific Basin. And of course, we also have the area of interest west-southwest of 96E with only a 10% chance of formation. In the Western Pacific, we have Conson and 19W. 19W is probably going to be getting a name relatively soon. Could be just an hour after this actually does get released, so we'll see if it does get that one. Of course, Conson is currently impacting the Philippines right now, could be affecting the Hainan Peninsula afterwards. In the North Indian Ocean, we're looking at nothing going on here, and nothing expected in the next 5 days. There have been some slight rumbles, but that is to be expected. We'll be seeing some activity return here in about a month. Looking it over into the Atlantic, you can see Larry quite clearly there. It's become an annular hurricane, and of course it is looking to be going under another eyewall replacement cycle. Already a relatively large eye, around 70 miles in diameter, so definitely a very large storm that we're dealing with. Could be affecting Newfoundland in 5 days. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking at nothing much besides, of course, 96E. That is the only discernible system that you can really see here. That is likely going to become a relatively short-lived tropical system as it continues to move towards the west away from Mexico. In the Western Pacific, you can see Conson there impacting portions of the Philippines. And then, of course, you can also see 19W, which is likely going to become the season's 3rd major typhoon if current forecasts hold. So that is definitely going to be something that we're going to be watching as we head into the next few days. Code orange for these 2 systems here. We'll likely be going live on these 2 systems in the morning tomorrow. In the North Indian Ocean, you can quite clearly see that there is still monsoonal activity going on here, especially in the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. Not much going on, period. All quiet there, so expect this pattern to continue for a few more weeks. But yeah, going into Conson again, that is expected to weaken as it heads to the Philippines and a little bit the South China Sea, but it is expected to become a Category 1 typhoon as it approaches the Hainan Peninsula, and as well as 19W expected to become a Category 3 and potentially make landfall at that intensity in Taiwan. So definitely some big threats that we're looking at here. In the Eastern Pacific, sea surface temperatures remain around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius for a good chunk of the basin, although they are starting to see some more areas that are down to 27 there. The Gulf of Mexico has somewhat recovered from the impacts of Grace and Ida and what they had on the waters there, but other than that, temperatures remain relatively warm across the entire Atlantic region there. 28 to 29 across the entire Caribbean, and then of course as you head into the northwestern Gulf of Mexico, those temperatures increase to over 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. In the North Indian Ocean, we're still seeing some of those 30 degrees isotherms expand across the portions of northern Bay of Bengal. Those temperatures, of course, drop off quickly as you head into the Arabian Sea. And in the Western Pacific, the 30-degree isotherms continue across the Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. So some really good temperatures that we're seeing get tapped into for the Western Pacific. And it's going to be providing a good environment for these storms as long as shear doesn't take hold. We will, of course, have more in-depth updates on these 2 systems as we head into the next 24 hours. Here is the sea surface temperature anomaly, so you can see that the Atlantic is still looking relatively above average, although you can kind of see some cooling where Larry's been tracking over. So we're starting to see some of that upwelling take shape there. The Western Pacific remaining above average in terms of temperatures, and then of course the Pacific not looking too hot in terms of those. On this day in 1991, we had 2 Category 4s active: Hurricane Claudette, which was the strongest system of the 1991's inactive season there, and Typhoon Ivy, which was peaking on this day as well as a Category 4. There was also Tropical Depression 7, which would become a tropical storm by the name of Danny. So of course we've been having quite a few List 1 seasons, but we've also been honoring the anniversary, so that's why you've been seeing a little bit more of the List 1 familiarity lately. So with that said, you can find more of our cyclone history products on the Twitter there. Well, with that, the next name of the Atlantic remains Mindy, followed by Nicholas. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking at for Olaf and Pamela. And in the Central Pacific, while Olaf may think that it's beautiful, it's really not, because we're still waiting for Hone for the over 690th time. In the Western Pacific, we're looking out for Chant 2, followed by Dianmu. We're likely going to be getting Chant 2 within the next hour or two, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what happens with the names. And of course, North Indian Ocean, we're looking out for Gulab and Shaheen here. In the Australian region, we're looking out for Patty and Ruby. In the Southwestern Indian Ocean, we're looking out for Anna and Batsire. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Cody. We'll be back with live events starting at 11 Zulu.